Hong Kong's budget surplus forecast for the current financial year has now been put at nearly $64 billion, about 7 times the original figure of $9 billion. This as Financial Secretary John Tsang delivered his annual budget speech today and announced $34 billion worth of relief measures for the public. Diane To with a quick breakdown of what's being offered.
The public coffers are teeming with money, and again, it's a lot more than expected. This time, the hefty income came largely from the double stamp duty launched to cool the property market. Stamp duties brought in almost $30 billion more than predicted, while profits tax, salaries tax and land premium also exceeded expectations. To share the sweet success, the Financial Secretary offered $34 billion worth of relief measures to the public. A $290 million package was also announced to help businesses affected by the Occupy movement and step up promotional efforts to negate any negative impact on the city's reputation brought by the protest campaign. The Financial Secretary rolled out several initiatives to help Hong Kong overcome its biggest challenges, an aging population and manpower shortage, and proposed ways to boost startups as well as the cultural and creative industries. In his 8th budget, the finance chief forecast a surplus of $36.8 billion for the year 2015 to 16, with fiscal reserves expected to reach more than $856 billion. Still, Tsang warned about a future slowdown in economic growth and reiterated the need to stay vigilant to avoid a structural deficit. Diane To, TVB News.
Salaries and profits tax reductions, extra allowances for the needy, and the waiving of 2 quarters of rates are some of the relief measures announced by the Financial Secretary. Details from Stephanie Choi.
Shortly after offering his Lunar New Year greetings at the beginning of his speech, John Tsang addressed how the government would spend $290 million to cure the self-inflicted harm brought on by the Occupy movement.
We need to demonstrate, how our concern for them. But more importantly, I think we need to inject some funding to help improve the business sentiment as well as the perception people have overseas about Hong Kong, because we are an externally oriented economy. And what concerns international investors, what concerns overseas tourists, are big concerns to us, and I think we need to remedy the situation.
The support measures include waiving license fees for travel agents, hotels and guest houses for 6 months, waiving the license fees and fees for restricted food permits for 6 months, benefiting 26,000 restaurants and operators, and a one-time waiver on vehicle examination fees for the renewal of vehicle licenses within a year for taxis, light buses, franchised and non-franchised buses, goods vehicles, trailers and special purpose vehicles. $80 million will also go to the Hong Kong Tourism Board to promote Hong Kong. As for relief measures, 1.82 million taxpayers will benefit from a 75% reduction in salaries tax and tax under personal assessment, subject to a ceiling of $20,000. That means those who earn less than $400,000 a year will get rebates of less than $10,000, and those who earn $400,000 or more annually will get rebates ranging between $14,000 and $20,000. The basic and additional child allowances will be raised from $70,000 to $100,000. Rates will be waived for the first 2 quarters of the next fiscal year, subject to a ceiling of $2,500 per rateable property. Comprehensive Social Security assistance, old age allowance and old age living allowance and disability allowance recipients will receive 2 months' worth of extra allowances. And low-income public housing households will get 1 month of free rent. Subject to a ceiling of $20,000, profits tax will be reduced by 75%.
So-called one-off relief packages also causing more inequality in Hong Kong when 80% are given of the relief package is given to those already in the middle class or the rich.
Concerned about the pressure on future public coffers due to an aging population, Zhang also stressed the need to broaden Hong Kong's tax base. He said the government may explore again the feasibility of introducing a goods and services tax, or GST, despite a broad rejection of it in 2006. Stephanie Choi, TVB News.
Also in the budget report are a series of measures to boost Hong Kong's economy. Among them are suggestions to import labor, enhance training for the local workforce, and increase financial support for local businesses. Evelina Lung reports.
Amid worldwide economic uncertainties, Zhang Zhan said Hong Kong has to turn to domestic demand to maintain its growing economy.
總數嘅98%。
There are 320,000 SMEs in Hong Kong, accounting for 98% of the total local enterprises and employing 50% of the workforce in the private sector. This underscores SMEs' role as the mainstay of our economy.
Measures to help these SMEs include increasing the amount of funding support to each project under the SME Development Fund from $2 to $5 million.
Zhang also pointed out that the manpower mismatch in the city is becoming more and more evident. This, coupled with an aging population, could hinder Hong Kong's economic development.
To solve this problem, Zhang suggested importing manpower in an appropriate, limited, and targeted manner. He also said funding will be put into training the local workforce. For example, $100 million to launch a 3-year pilot scheme for insurance and asset and wealth management services, where internship opportunities will be provided for students. The financial chief also placed emphasis on the city's textiles and clothing industry. He said $500 million will be used to promote local fashion designers and brands internationally through improving the city's local fashion events and participating in overseas ones. The government will also help out fashion design startups and provide internship and study opportunities for design graduates. There was lukewarm response to this proposal. Rio, a local designer, said hosting a show in Paris will cost at least $3 to $4 million, so $500 million won't help that many people. He also said those who get the scholarships might not be the most talented designers. They might only be very good businessmen who know how to write a good proposal. Evelina Lang, TVB News.
The government plans to set aside more money to help set up social enterprises, and funds will be allocated to improve childcare services to encourage more women to join the workforce. Ronnie Samtani has that story.
Outside the Legislative Council, a number of groups petitioned the Financial Secretary to offer more support to the needy.
I think we would like to see the Financial Secretary really deliver his promise to give a long-term planning as to retirement scheme to protect the elderly.
John Zhang proposed setting aside $150 million to help set up social enterprises from 2016-17 to 2019-20. It's a new phase of a program that has already helped to establish more than 160 social enterprises since 2006. And Zhang will put in an extra $71 million to provide additional daycare and residential care places for the elderly. The budget pointed out that the local labor force will begin to decline in 2018. Zhang said he wants to encourage women and the elderly to join the workforce, and so he allocated $130 million to strengthen childcare services. To enable people with family commitments to join the workforce, Zhang encouraged employers to introduce more flexible working arrangements, such as allowing employees to work from home or to provide part-time positions. As for retirement protection, Zhang said the Commission on Poverty will consult the public again later this year. Two lawmakers, Leung Kwok Kung and Raymond Chan, were evicted from the chamber as Zhang was speaking about the controversial topic. The pair accused the government of lacking determination in pushing ahead with a universal pension scheme. Meanwhile, it was pointed out that the so-called N Nothing group, low-income households who aren't in public housing or receiving social welfare, were left out of the budget. But Chief Secretary for Administration Carrie Lam said she will ask the Community Care Fund to consider offering a one-off allowance to them. It would involve an estimated $450 million. Ronnie Samtani, TVB News.
And on housing, John Tsang says there are plans to help homeowners pay the premium of their subsidized flats. That could boost the circulation of these units. Liz Yun reports.
At present, there are 380,000 units under the home ownership scheme. About 130,000 of them have their premium settled and could be let out or sold. Today, the Financial Secretary said the Hong Kong Mortgage Corporation, or HKMC, will consider launching a new scheme to help homeowners pay the premium of their flats.
To promote market circulation of subsidized housing, the HKMC will consider launching a new premium loan guarantee scheme to help owners of subsidized sale flats pay premium.
Lawmaker Alice Mack from the Federation of Trade Unions welcomed this approach.
We hope that the measures can benefit the current subsidized housing owners to provide flexibility in selling or renting their flats.
Mack also urged the government to do more to help stabilize the housing market. But Democratic Party legislator Wu Chi-wai believes there are better ways to cool the subsidized housing market.
If the government adopts my point of view, saying that they try to share the rental income with those owners according to the shares of the ownership, then that will be an easier and a more effective way to provide more rental housing in the market.
On housing supply, 29 residential sites will be included in a land sale program in the next fiscal year, generating 16,000 units. Overall, Tsang expects 19,000 flats to become available.
The Financial Secretary said there could be possible market fluctuations following the U.S. interest rate hike and further monetary easing measures of the central banks of Eurozone and Japan. So, aspiring home buyers should think twice before purchasing properties. Liz Yun, TVB News.